If we examine the history of the United States, if we examine all the presidents, and not that I'm really familiar with all the personal details, but generally we can all say that if we dug deep into every president's personal life, we did find quite a few things that he wasn't proud of and things that they changed over time, or like President Abraham Lincoln even getting a mail from a little girl telling him to shave his, keep a beard actually, and he just did that. So minor cosmetic things have shown to improve public perception, and this is all public perception. With WikiLeaks, the emails, everybody's trying to sway the voter to the left or to the right, whether it be Donald Trump's campaign or Hillary Clinton's campaign. But we, the voters, have to realize, what are we really doing? Who are we voting for? What kind of values are we interested in? Hillary Clinton represents a business-oriented globalist approach, globalization, where everything goes, every citizen for himself in the global world order, where the globalists believe that there should be no borders, open immigration, and do as you please. And I have to say that these are ideals that sound really nice, but when we contend with finite resources, national pride, people living for centuries, having defended their turfs for centuries, and it being a natural instinct, for example, in the forests and, wherever you go, in the oceans, they're predators, they're people who defend territory, and you can't go everywhere. It upsets egos of the people already living there. And I understand that, and they're not overtly evil, they're not deplorable, they're not irredeemable, just natural. I'm going to say that, with our diets and our fads to become natural again, that's the key thing, that to become natural means that we are aligning ourselves with nature, and we must observe nature, and we see that nature is quite territorial. A garden with the weeds growing and the grasses, and there's competition, natural selection, and all these things that we read about in science. And it's a war zone out there in the forest. Each animal doesn't know when it's going to be their last. But humans, we can argue, have common sense, they have a soul, they know things better supposedly, but yet we try to go organic, try to go natural, get rid of our diseases, heart disease, blood pressure, cholesterol, renal disease. It's all because we've deviated from our natural diets that was pretty organic to begin with. Like my dog. I mean, he eats a natural raw diet and he's really healthy. If I start to feed him processed foods, he's going to be sick, as we see a lot of pets suffering all over the world from good intentions of humans. So let's not think that our good intentions are going to solve the world problems. All roads to hell are paved with good intentions, is what they say. So there's a dichotomy of the human being, the evil side, the good side, and which side do you end up? Now, Donald Trump being 70 years old, we're confronted by a tape, 60, when he was around 60 years old, or even 59, maybe for him a very young age, a youthful age, full of testosterone, and he said things as a reality star, and that were caught on tape. And he's confronted by these things of the past, his ego, his power drive, and all the things that he thought he was at 59, newly married to Melania, and he felt like top of the world, and he could do anything. And that's a common failing that we all have been through. I think Hillary Clinton's still on it, and a lot of us have obviously gone through it. And we can empathize with Donald the human there. But for our presidential candidate, we'd like some better qualities, right? And that's where we have to draw the line. Now, the only way Donald Trump can overcome this fiasco, this tragedy for him, is by honestly looking at himself and honestly talking to the American people, getting off that high horse and leaving his ego behind, and talking as the nationalist that he really is. I do believe that he has the nation's best interests at heart, and this is one of the reasons that I'm also going out on a limb and talking about him. I'm a Muslim and I am an immigrant to America, and I've seen everything for the last 20 years as an immigrant, and how America has treated me and how things have moved and which direction they're headed. And one of the reasons I support Donald Trump while being Muslim, supposedly persecuted, is that I myself have seen the failings in my own religion, in my own people, in my own culture, which have led to all these problems, and Donald Trump is making a stand. Now, I'm also a medical doctor, and I also agree that to treat a patient, you need to make a diagnosis. As long as we have an ostrich policy and we think everything's okay, it's all natural and multi-culti, let's all get along with each other and there are no problems, is being very short-sighted. It's like ignoring your blood pressure that's there with a few holistic methods, but never checking it and never having a diagnosis that you're sick inside. Now, with Islam, I actually appreciated Donald Trump making a stand, because there is a sickness in Islam right now. Most people wouldn't like to admit that there's something wrong with their own culture, with their own situation, but I think Donald Trump is doing a favor to the Islamic people by letting us know that we're headed somewhere dark and not to a good place, and the American people would obviously not like to have this situation, this culture with this sickness inside America and propagating this, while Obama and Hillary Clinton have adopted the European model of sweeping everything under the carpet and not confronting the psychological issues inherently present in Islam, which is dominant Dar ul-Islam. It is the house of Islam and wants to establish, a worldwide house of Islam. It's the natural propagation. And this was the whole point, that everyone would convert eventually and Islam would rule the world. And I also believed in that, and I would try to convert my friends also, like, come on. But when I saw that that it's headed south, it's not really going anywhere. There are no ideas, there's no science, there's no physics, there's no chemistry happening in there. It's just all about dog eat dog and dominant ego. So I kind of grew disgruntled with Islam myself, and when I saw Donald Trump making a stand, I think it's a step in the right direction, because I do want a diagnosis and I do want a treatment for this. It's all too easy to just hang around and pretend it's all good and I'm going to heaven and none of you are. And I'd rather have the human approach, humanistic. We're all in this together. And if we're not working for the human destiny, if we're all working for vested interests, for my own salvation, I get to go to heaven and you don't, because guess what? I was born Muslim. It's not right. I'm signing off from that agenda that I will go to heaven and you guys, all the Christians and Jews, will burn in hell. And if the Christians think like that also, or the Jews, then they're wrong too. The real story was building it together. And that's what I see in Donald Trump, that he's in it to build another America, a sort of a utopian version of America. And the utopian version involves removing a lot of the undesirables and illegal immigrants and all that. And it sounds cruel, but it is a utopian version. And if we don't have a utopia, an ideal in our minds, then we don't really have anything to look forward to. It's just one day after another, the routine, and letting things be as they are. Now, I come from a third world country, and I know this situation of letting things fester and not take care of things. The dirt, the disease, the tropical diseases, and all these things that, are just pushed aside into the corner and ignored. People got really pissed off with the movie Slumdog Millionaire because it showed the ugly side of India. And people didn't like that because the Indians imagined themselves living in a sort of a utopian situation also, that India is shining. And a lot of people do think like that. And a lot of the Muslims are still trapped in that situation where they think that Islam is still shining and there's nothing wrong with it. And it's just a few misguided people. And this is the problem. And Donald Trump identified the problem, and this is why I support him. And he also identified the illegal immigration. What it does is that it spreads a culture of lawlessness that doesn't really matter. I mean, I stood in line for 11 years to get into the United States waiting for my green card. And when I did, I was warmly welcomed by the Americans in '94, and it was a great time to go to America. And people were still asking where you're from and had cultural ideas that they wanted to explore. And it's just gotten old, and with everybody flouting the law and the lawlessness of the Black Lives Matter, shooting the cops, and the situation that we didn't want, we were escaping from. We were escaping the lawlessness, the situation of violence, and people just not obeying the law. So when I came to America, I saw that people were obeying street lights. There was order. I mean, with the current Obama mindset of amnesties for all the criminals and illegals, it's pretty much like, look, you don't have to wait for the red light or the green light. Just do as you please. And this is not the America that I immigrated to. And what I find with Donald Trump is that he is trying to recreate or take us back to a time when America was the country that we all respected all around the world, what the ideals it had. And now it's trying to become ordinary, just that we're not better than you, and we will come down to your standards. And I would have immigrated to Africa or South America if I really wanted to be there. But no, I came for the guys who built the Sears Tower, who built the Empire State Building, the Hoover Dam. I came for those flashes of geniuses, Benjamin Franklin, the land of inventions, Thomas Edison, Westinghouse. These were the ideals that drove me to America. And if I see those ideals being betrayed, of a kind of an idiocracy prevailing in America and meritocracy being replaced by a situation of Obamacare, I, as an American patriot now, will put my foot down. And because I love this country, I will do what is necessary to protect it. And this is through the ballot. The legal way is, and I see this embodied in Donald Trump. Now, he might be in trouble. He might have said a few inopportune things, but I still think that he can reform himself. He's a Christian. There are reformed Christians, born-again Christians. Everybody does what they have to. And it's okay. And it happens to everybody. But maybe this can make Donald Trump into a better man. I see qualities in him, and he's willing to learn. He's ready to hear the people. And he can admit this mistake and move on. and not repeat it. And the chances of repeating this at 70 years old are quite remote. Now, Hillary Clinton, her chances of repeating her mistakes with national security are quite high. Her emails, her current indiscretions with national security, with the FBI, can easily be repeated. I don't see her becoming more careful. I don't see her really acknowledging her problems. And Donald Trump, I do see him as somebody who learns from his mistakes. And since he does espouse Christian values, not that I believe in per se religion like that, but the good thing is that the Reformation, Christianity has shown Reformation capabilities, and if Donald Trump is a Christian, then he can show Reformation qualities, that he is reformed. And these are personal things that we're talking about, not national security. And I think he has a good chance of beating them. And what happens if he beats them? We stand to gain a lot of things from Donald Trump being a nationalist, closing the borders, establishing visa checks, establishing legal migration. What eventually even Europe is going to be waking up to is something that has to happen in the United States. And I don't see Hillary Clinton doing that. However, I do see Donald Trump with enough willpower after Obama having the necessary drive to accomplish things that are necessary for American manufacturing. And I do think that he can achieve these things. We still want to have presidential standards, and I think that he can. And if we look back to JFK, John F. Kennedy, I mean, the guy wrote the book on marital indiscretions. I think even Bill Clinton looked up to JFK with Marilyn Monroe and all sorts of women in his life, in the Kennedys' lives, and it was okay. I mean, John F. Kennedy laid down his life for the country, but his personal life was separate. I mean, even though the FBI was involved in his personal life, protecting and escorting Marilyn Monroe in and out of the White House, and her mysterious murder and or suicide, and we don't know what really happened, and then his eventual tragic assassination. But he laid down his life for the country, and everybody knew that he was for America. And I see the same qualities in Donald Trump, who's left his mansions, his Trump Tower, his billionaire lifestyle to come down and go to small towns in America and talk to the people, which Hillary hasn't really done. She hasn't established a rapport. And as I travel around America, I have seen that there's a visceral, innate connection with the American people, with Donald Trump. And I really like this. And, whatever the locker talk that was, Donald Trump boasting about his sexual prowess, his persona, his stage aura, that's all bragging. And I think that, even like the actor Robert De Niro, who's been criticizing him, I'm sure we can find some tapes on him. And Ronald Reagan, who was a Hollywood actor, we could find tons of stuff on him also. But that's not the point. We are all human, and it's just the type of mistakes you make. You make a personal life mistake, it's not such a big deal for public life, as we've seen with JFK, Bill Clinton getting impeached, getting all sorts of sexual favors in the White House while being president. And America moved on and said, okay, but that's his personal life, and we're not so involved in that. But as long as he does his public job. And that's what I want from Donald Trump, a commitment to his public life and his personal life taking a back seat. And now that this is on tape and revealed, I still want Donald Trump to be even going even further than Bill Clinton or anyone in the past, and putting it behind him. He's 70 years old, and I think his remaining years, he's strong and he can do a lot of good publicly in public life for America, which Hillary Clinton